the most witnessed UFO incident in history. In the late 1970s, a wave of fear swept across South America. Farmers would wake to find their livestock dead, not by predator, but by a phantom surgeon. The wounds were unnervingly precise: surgical cuts, clean puncture holes, and cauterized burns. Major organs were gone. The bodies were completely drained of blood. Something was silently terrorizing the continent. But on a remote Brazilian island named Colares, the pattern of terror shifted. Here the nightmare escalated. Three things made the Colares attacks horrifyingly unique. There were witnesses, there was photographic evidence, and this time the victims weren't just animals, they were people. Dr. Waleed Carvalho stared at the burns on her patient's chest. Perfect circles, branded into the skin. Inside each circle, a cluster of puncture marks like a series of injections. After 6 months as the only doctor on an island of 2,000, she thought she'd seen it all. Farming accidents, fishing injuries, the occasional animal bite. She was not prepared for this. The stories began with the fishermen. They saw objects, silent and swift, shooting in and out of the waters of Marajo Bay, leaving no disturbance. They saw them race across the sky and vanish into the dense jungle. Local pilots confirmed the sightings. Their instruments would go haywire whenever the objects appeared. They described cylinders, cones, and glowing discs. Within weeks, the sightings became interactive. The UFOs, as the locals called them, launched a full-blown assault on the island. Dr. Carvalho's 40th victim lay before her, telling the same insane story as the 39 before. Most were women, most were attacked at night. It always started with the ceiling glowing a soft orange, like a cigar held to paper. The light would intensify and then a hole would seem to open in the roof. Victims swore they could see the stars through it, shimmering as if viewed through water. Then beams of colored light would strike their bodies, usually the left side of the chest. Paralysis followed. Complete terrifying immobility. They couldn't move, couldn't scream. They could only watch and feel as if the very life was being drained from them. They gave the lights a name: Chupa Chupa, the suckers, the blood suckers. Dr. Carvalho initially dismissed the claims of blood-draining beams as trauma-induced delusion. But the blood tests told a different story. Every victim presented with dangerously low blood counts, yet there were no external signs of bleeding. Whatever was doing this used no tool she could recognize. When 2 of her patients died from their injuries, the official cause of death was listed as unknown. She begged the local authorities for help. Those who could fled the island. Those who stayed lit massive bonfires and shot fireworks into the sky, a futile attempt to scare away the silent attackers. It was useless. The lights were not afraid. With his island under siege and his people dying, the mayor made a desperate call to the Air Force. He was put on hold. Then a different voice came on the line, asking pointed questions. Had the victims experienced blood loss? Tissue damage like burns or punctures? When the mayor confirmed, they promised to send investigators. The mayor exploded. He didn't want investigators, he wanted fighter jets. He wanted these things shot out of the sky. The Air Force officer on the other end was not surprised. He'd heard this before. A special unit arrived the next day. But they didn't bring missiles, they brought cameras. Captain Iranje Holanda led the team. Their mission, Operation Prato. Prato, the Portuguese word for plate or saucer. Officially, their orders were to debunk the story as mass hysteria. Holanda, an experienced pilot, assumed he'd find evidence of satellites, weather balloons, or maybe just some exotic laser beam shooting vampire birds. He was wrong. Night after night, Holanda and his team witnessed the lights. They watched objects perform impossible aerial maneuvers, hovering silently before accelerating at speeds beyond any known aircraft. They tracked them diving into the bay without a splash, only to reappear moments later over the jungle. A pattern emerged, from the water to the jungle to the villages. These lights were intelligent. They were on a mission. Holanda saw the attacks himself. He watched as a light hunted a woman, following her as she tried to hide. Once the beam hit her, she was paralyzed. While the village was under assault, other lights would hover over Holanda's team, watching them, guarding them. When he moved his camp, the lights followed. After 4 months, Operation Saucer had amassed over 2,000 pages of documents, hundreds of photos, and 16 hours of film. The photographic evidence, however, was frustrating. Distant, blurry spheres of red and yellow light. Most frames were completely blown out, pure white. Holanda knew he was close to a breakthrough, but he couldn't prove what he was seeing. Sending his reports to command, he told the truth. Something unexplained was happening on Colares. The Air Force, wary of Cold War politics and potential CIA operations, needed more than just lights in the sky. Hollanda needed a smoking gun. One night, staring at another useless, overexposed white photograph, his eyes fell on the flashlight on his desk. An idea sparked. What if the secret wasn't in the picture, but in the negative? He held the pure black negative up to a light. Faintly, an outline emerged. He brought in a trusted friend, Sergeant and filmmaker Milton Mena, who specialized in ultraviolet film. They changed their technique. Instead of photographing the blinding lights, they focused on capturing the solid shapes hidden within them. It worked. The new photos revealed massive cylindrical objects with black bands along their hulls, some estimated to be over 300 feet long, bigger than a 747 airliner. They moved in silent, perfect formation. The cameras also caught smaller probes being released from these motherships, conducting surveillance before returning. By December 1977, Captain Hollanda had his proof. He sent the evidence to Regional Air Command. The response was immediate. A call from a brigadier general with new orders. Surrender everything. All photos, all footage, all documents. The findings were to be classified. Operation Saucer was over. The team was stunned. They were on the verge of understanding the phenomenon, and they were being shut down. Hollanda believed the government didn't want them to find out who, or what, was controlling these objects. But it was too late. Captain Hollanda already knew. For 20 years, Captain Hollanda remained silent. The UFO encounters on Colares ended as mysteriously as they began. The official Air Force statement, nothing extraordinary was found. The story faded into local legend. Then, in 1997, a now-retired Hollanda decided the truth had to be told. In a 2-day interview with a UFO researcher, he recounted the events of Operation Saucer. The confident commander was gone, replaced by a man haunted by what he had seen and experienced. He described a personal encounter that occurred not on the island, but in his own home. Late one night, he was woken by a crackle like a power surge. A flash of light, and he found himself standing, paralyzed with fear. He felt a presence behind him. At the foot of his bed stood a being just under 5 feet tall, clad in a suit like a diver's, its face obscured by a gray mask. Another crack, another flash, and it was gone. He thought it was a nightmare, but the next day his forearm itched. It was red, and when he pressed it, a small, flexible object moved under his skin. Weeks after giving this chilling interview, before the article could even be published, Wirange Hollanda was found dead in his apartment. He had apparently hanged himself with the belt of his robe. There is nothing to debunk in the Colares story. The events happened, and they happened again. In 2014, another wave of attacks struck Brazil, this time targeting indigenous tribes deep in the Amazon. Same lights, same injuries. The methodical nature of these assaults suggests a calculated purpose. Some scientists, like the late Stephen Hawking, have warned that an advanced alien civilization might view us as primitives to be conquered. Physicist David Brin proposed a more chilling idea, which became known as the dark forest hypothesis. Imagine the universe as a dark forest. Every civilization is an armed hunter, stalking silently through the trees. Each hunter knows two things. Resources are finite, and technology grows exponentially. Any other life it discovers is a potential future threat. So when a hunter finds another, there is only one logical course of action. Open fire and eliminate them. In this forest, hell is other people. This, the theory suggests, is the answer to the Fermi paradox. The question of, where is everybody? They're hiding. Because the moment you reveal your existence, you become a target. The beings that visited Colares could destroy us with ease, yet they haven't. This doesn't mean they are friendly. Perhaps, as in the sci-fi novel The Three-Body Problem, they simply see us as bugs. Annoying, but not truly dangerous. But what happens when the bugs build a nest in your attic and start stinging your children? You call an exterminator. Our radio waves, our space probes, our constant attempts to signal our presence are like lighting a flare in that dark forest. We are announcing our location to hunters unknown. The decision of how to proceed cannot be left to the military alone. We need scientists, philosophers, and our most empathetic minds to weigh in. Because when first contact is finally truly made, it will either be the greatest moment in human history or the end of it. And that is a decision we cannot afford to get wrong.